This is the story Red Dogs Can't Jump, written by Muireann Elliman, age 11, County Galway. Pippi is a bouncy Hungarian Vizsla with floppy ears, a coat like shiny pink rust, a dark stripe down her back, and big brown adorable eyes. Pippi is the fastest dog in all of Raha, but as hard as she tried, she just couldn't jump. One night, Pippi and her puppies were curled up by a warm peaty fire. After a long day bouncing through muddy streams and hedges. The humans were fast asleep when Pippi heard a crunching noise on the gravel driveway. Moments later, a window opened. A shadowy figure grabbed Pippi and threw her into a dark van. She scraped and barked to get out. When the van door opened, she was dragged into a fenced area full of sad dogs. The dogs plotted to escape, but there was a problem. The fence was too high, they couldn't go under it, so they had to go over it. First up was the cheeky Chihuahua, who tried hard but her legs were too short. Next up was the lazy Labrador, who got halfway up but was too heavy. The posh Poodle and rowdy Jack Russell gave all they could but didn't succeed. Last was Pippi, who pinned back her ears, took a run up and with one giant leap cleared the fence. At the top of the fence was a long wooden plank. Pippi nudged one end and it fell. The dogs managed to crawl up the plank and escape. They all scrambled towards the village, tails wagging high. Pippi sniffed familiar smells that guided her home. Her family were frantically searching for her.
Pippi, Pippi, where are you? Come here, girl.
Pippi barked. They all looked up and ran towards her with joy. Pippi was home, and to her delight, was just in time for breakfast.
The Dragon's Treasure by Thomas O'Carroll, age 9, County Dublin. High on top of a mountain, in a dark and dangerous cave, lived 2 dragons.
I'm so bored,
Said Burn the Dragon.
I need to steal some more treasures, but I've stolen from everywhere I know. What about the places that you don't know? You could always discover a new place to steal from.
Replied Bob the Mini Dragon.
Great idea. Glad I thought of it.
Announced Burn as Bob face-palmed. The next morning, Burn set off on his journey for untold riches. After waving goodbye to Bob, he thought,
I wonder what I'll find. Silver, emeralds, gold, sapphires, diamonds. Ooh, rubies. They're my favorite. And they're the hardest to find.
Eventually, Burn found a strange map in the forest. It was raining and he didn't want to get his wings wet, so he flew down and picked up the map. The map read, X marks the spot, F does not, W marks the clue, and Q marks you. Burn saw Q in the forest, an F in his cave, a W at the edge of the forest, and an X on a tower. In no time at all, Burn found a clue that read, "A risky climb to reach the tower can be done with some flight power." Soon, Burn found the tower and he took everything. Bronze, gold, gems, silver, platinum, rubies. All of it. When Burn headed back to the cave, he said to Bob,
Bob, we're officially 7 times richer than when I left the cave 4 days ago.
and they swam in gold and silver and platinum and bronze until the end of days. The end.
Once upon a time in a wildlife sanctuary, the animals would be telling each other stories. One stormy night, when the bats were all done telling their thrilling story, a young fox stepped out of the shadows. "I've quite an exciting story," he said. "It goes like this. Back when I was a little cub, I lived in a dump. Life was fairly good. I was just staying in the den waiting for Mother. It stayed like that until pest control came. Of course, then I was the smallest and smartest. I had the sense to stay hidden in a corner. I wish I had let them take me though, because the pest control took my whole family. I never saw them again. I was pretty down in the dumps until I met Maggie. She was a human and an orphan too. When we first met, she was doing all community work for a horrid orphanage. When I ran away from her, then I thought about it. She did smell nice. After a bit of thinking, I walked up to her. I knew I had it right when the next day she offered me a dinner. Then she took me back to her orphanage. At bedtime, she took me to a carer who worked for a place called the Wildlife Sanctuary. The next day, the carer took me to the train station in a cage. It wasn't very comfy. I was taken to the Wildlife Sanctuary. A few months ago, Maggie came to visit, finished the fox hurriedly. "Bravo, bravo," said the other animals. Then the fox looked up. Maggie was standing in the doorway, grinning happily.
On a Moonbeam by Elsa Fowley Doyle, age 7, County Dublin. Once there was a mythical creature named Ned, who was part red panda and part unicorn. She lived in the land of Loopy, where blue waterfalls gushed and birds cheeped. But on the day Ned was going to be crowned queen, a vicious storm occurred. Everybody fled underground, except for Ned. Ned wanted to prove that she was the right queen to protect her people. Ned was very brave at first, but now, not so much. The moon was rising, which was a very important thing in Loopy, because that's what gave all the people of Loopy their powers. Ned had powers too. She could control moonlight, and the beams of moonlight gave her strength. Strength for her to fight that nasty storm and stop it once and for all. She ran up the hills, towards the clouds at the center of the storm. At that moment, someone popped their head up from one of the underground tunnels and said, "Is the storm over yet? I'm bored." It was Ned's friend Sylvia, another red unicorn. "Oh, hi, Sylvia," said Ned. "I'm going to try to get the storm to go away." "How?" asked Sylvia. "I'm going to the moon," replied Ned in a determined voice. "Well then, I'm coming too," Sylvia said. "Thank you," said Ned. And just then, Ned felt something new and strange on her back. She had wings now. and so did Sylvia. They took off together and flew to the moon. Ned felt stronger with her friend. They both focused their power on the storm and slowly shrank it into a crystal ball. The storm was gone, and the land was safe. "Let's go home," said Ned. "Okay," said Sylvia, and they flew home together. The end.
Aquatus and the Dark Sorcerer by Noah Mitchell, age 7, County Galway. Long ago, the river Ornia was a peaceful place. Aquatus the water centaur watched over all the creatures that lived in the river. Aquatus was brave, strong, and magical. However, one day, a dark sorcerer came to live beside the river. He was rude, unfriendly, and he didn't like his new neighbors one little bit. Every night, when he finished with his spell making, the sorcerer poured the gunge from his cauldron into the clean water of the river. The river got dirtier and dirtier, and the fish, birds, and otters became very sick. Aquatus noticed all of this, and he knew that this was the work of the Dark Sorcerer. Aquatus stormed into the Dark Sorcerer's house and shouted, "What have you done? You're destroying the river!" The Dark Sorcerer laughed. "They call me the Dark Sorcerer, don't they? So I'm going to make your river so filthy that all of your annoying little friends will go away." "We'll see about that," Aquatus muttered. The next day, Aquatus had a plan. He sent a message to the Dark Sorcerer that read, "I challenge you to a duel today at 3 o'clock. Don't be late." At 3 o'clock, the Dark Sorcerer left his house, but couldn't see Aquatus anywhere. He sailed his boat into the river to try to find Aquatus. Suddenly the world began to spin. He was caught in a whirlpool. The Dark Sorcerer sank further and further into the water, and then finally saw Aquatus on the bottom of the riverbed. "I knew you'd come here," Aquatus jeered. He spun his arm, and the whirlpool spun even faster. The Dark Sorcerer yelled, "This isn't over!" as he disappeared. The whirlpool cleaned up the river, and all was well once again. The Escape by Lola May McCormack, age 10, County Galway. The wolf towered above me, saliva oozing from its mouth. I stared back, determined not to break its gaze. Its big, shaggy grey head loomed over my own. Dark grey eyes staring into mine, with a hunger so great I would be gone in seconds. I let out a small whimper at the thought of it. I was pessimistic. Me, a tiny black kitten, against him, a fully grown wolf. No, I didn't stand a chance. I couldn't just run for it. He was much faster than me. I was trapped, and he knew it. Now he was just biding his time, savouring the moment. The moon shone brightly overhead, illuminating my final moments. The bushes rustled softly in the light breeze to muffle my cries. The wolf glared at me maliciously, getting impatient now. As the wolf prepared to pounce, my green eyes widened in fright, and the moonlight revealed the lower branches of a tall oak tree. This was my chance. It was risky, but it just might work. I fixed my eyes on the first branch, which was just about visible between the wolf's hind legs, and I ran through the wolf's legs, up the tree, my tiny legs working as hard as they could, my little kitten heart beating in my mouth. The wolf snarled and gave chase. I didn't look back until I was balancing on the highest branch. Can wolves climb trees? Hopefully not. I was safe for now.
Percy the Hedgehog, written by Luke O'Branigan McCahill, age 11, County Meath. There was once a purple hedgehog called Percy, who was the friendliest hedgehog ever. Percy lived in a tree with furniture just like you have at home. One cold autumn day, Percy was walking in the forest, wearing a pink scarf because it was cold, when Percy saw a strange-looking hedgehog. It had thick spikes, no legs, and no face. Little did Percy know that this weird creature was a pinecone. "Hello," Percy said nervously. Of course, the pinecone said nothing. Maybe I should bring him to Luke," said Percy. Luke was a human and one of Percy's best friends, and they both loved each other very much. Percy made his way to Luke's house with the pinecone, which he had to carry as the pinecone wouldn't move. After a while, Percy found Luke's house and rang the doorbell. "Oh, hello, Percy. I wasn't expecting you today. Why have you come out here on this cold day?" asked Luke. "I came to see if you can help this poor hedgehog," said Percy. "Oh, Percy," Luke chuckled. "That's not a hedgehog, that's a pinecone." "Oh," said Percy. "Silly me." Soon Percy was laughing too. Soon Percy decided to leave because it was almost daytime. "Bye," Percy said Luke. "Bye, Luke," said Percy. And soon enough, Percy was fast asleep in his bed. The end.
Spy Hippo by Cillian Walsh, age 10, County Dublin. Once in Dublin Zoo, there lived a hippo called Henry. Henry was no ordinary hippo. He did do ordinary hippo things like eat, swim, float, and eat some more. But Henry was also a spy. Every time an animal had a problem, Henry would get to the bottom of it. One day, Henry was eating when Marty the meerkat came to his cage.
"I've a case for you, Henry,"
Said Marty.
"Okay. How can I be of assistance?"
Said Henry, putting on a James Bond voice.
"Well, there's somebody stealing our food. We need you to crack the case,"
Said Marty.
"I'll check my calendar,"
Said Henry, smiling, but of course he was raring to go.
"Let's go to your enclosure and look for clues."
Henry saw paw prints.
"That's strange. They don't belong to a meerkat. They look suspiciously like mole tracks."
Just then, Henry heard a noise. He looked behind him and saw a mole's head popping out of the grass.
"Stop that mole!"
Shouted Henry. And he gave pursuit. They ran towards the fence, but the mole got stuck in between two bars.
"Help!"
Yelled the mole.
"Ha! I hope those bars will stop you stealing,"
Said Henry.
"I only steal because I have no food and I'm so hungry,"
Said the mole. Said Henry, considering.
"And I bet it's lonely out there in the wild, too."
The mole nodded sadly.
"You could always move in with us and we could share our food,"
Said Marty. The mole beamed. So next time you go to Dublin Zoo, look out for a mole in the meerkat enclosure.
Aisling ní chopper, scéal Rover, ís a de, condé chorca. Scéal Rover. Hi, it's Misha Rover. It's Mada Begma. Tá me machúni in Orison Beg. Le Mooner Marcus. Tá síal intahagan le chéile. Ach coppla míochan, tharla aru mór ma híal. Lá amháin, bhí me I lí I leaba, agus hiún Marcus isteach le chalín seo I chalín cara nua. A dúirt selam. Saibh is animte. Hi, sa saibh. Thug sí ai atcham. Chu a coppla lá hart agus níra saibh roiastam. Ach lá óháin, thug sí me hiúlad gotí park. Áit nar chua me riamh. Bhain sí an téad díam. Agus thosa me riocht. Tar éis tamil, déach me timpeall. Bhí saibh imithe agus an cór freisin. Hiún me go dtí an baile a bhí tíreach an aice leis an park. Bhí sé a gaiidí dorcha, agus bhí tuirse an damhnarm. Chorraigh me bosca cuirtchlór las mud in siopa, agus chua me stechan. Ar maidin chunig fear ólinn me, agus thug sé me go dtí an póna Madri. Dá me an I ggur coppla seachtaine, ach bhí an weagnas arm lá amháin chunig chlánisteach, agus thosa siad ag súgralem. Bhí an sport agan, agus bhí siad chod deas. Thug siad me arás go dtí a deach hain. Bhí cearar sa teilech, Mam, Sheila, Dad, Michael, agus cúpla, Sinead agus Cléana. Bhí teach agus Gordon ómhór acu bhí gachrad go chiamtach. Ach gach lá, bhí me ag splíne ar warcas, agus bhí is ag mo chláán nua gur me búr. Lá amháin, tháinig an cúpla abhaile an scoil, agus bhí nuacht iontach acu. Tháinig siad ar uimhir warcas sa fápéir nuachta. Tar éis coppla lá, bhí me ar ais le chéile le Marcus. Bhí me ar bís.